Back, we continue live right here, Pittsburgh CW. Bob Pompeani with you on the Bordas and Bordas hotline. Bordas and Bordas fighting for justice. The Pirates are fighting just to find out if they can get a run or two along the way, and had to do some regrouping today, certainly. Question is, where will offense come from? None coming in the minors, certainly. S-Rod is about to come off the disabled list. I'm sure that will excite a lot of people out there, but listen, if you're not going to get it consistently from your outfield of Dickerson, Marte, and Polanco, this team is going to struggle. They don't have depth at third base. Colin Moran's a nice piece, but he's certainly not the kind of player that you need at third base in terms of giving me power RBI production, and he has limited range defensively. Then you have probably a whole new shortstop, double play combination next year at second base. Josh Bell, a down year for him. Diaz has got to be the starting catcher next year, I would think, based on how he's played consistently all year, although Cervelli still at this point is ahead of him, at least based on, the lineups that we've seen the last couple of days. But the Pirates find themselves 11 out. They're really good this season. The question is, what do you do in the offseason? We can entertain some of those calls because I do think the party's over for this season. They're just too far down. They had their opportunities, and they just could not take advantage. After winning 11 in a row, they needed to continue with very few valleys, but unfortunately they've hit the road and they've hit the skids at times with this offense, and it's cost them. We have Robert Kemble on Twitter, says, Bob, why did the Pirate signings of Archer and Kella spark the batting buckos? What? It didn't spark. You thought it would have, but they needed offensive help as well, although it's been a weird season for them, Robert. When you look at their team, they have scored in bunches at times. When they won 11 in a row, they had games that featured 12 runs, 10 runs, 8 runs a couple of times. They got them in big bunches, and then when they go silent, they go real silent. And that's what I'm talking about. You got to have more consistency in the lineup so one guy can pick up another. I think the offseason has to be littered with them looking at free agency, something they don't like to do, but we saw them do something they don't like to do earlier when they traded prospects to get 2 established starters, or at least 2 established pitchers. Let's go to Tom. Make that John.
Hey, thanks for taking my call, man. How are you?
Hey, John. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Answer me a question. Why do the Pirates always lose 1-0 when they know the game's on the line?
They've been shut out 15 times, I believe, this season, so they've been shut out quite a bit, John. Just coming out with clutch hits, runners in scoring position. They had so many opportunities, really, even on this homestand. And you would think that solo home runs by themselves could not win games, but we've seen that happen a lot to them this season. All right, now we go to Tom in Altoona. Hey, Tom, how are you?
Good. How are you doing, Bob?
Hanging in there. Thanks, Tom.
I think it's time they try to get rid of Starling Marte, and I don't care for what.
Well, you should care for what, because if you're going to get rid of him, you're going to want something of value in return. You won't just get rid of him. He's still, when he's on his game, he's got really, really interesting skills, very good skills. He's fast. I wish he would steal more bases. That's a lost art in today's baseball. I think we don't see that nearly as much as we did. He still can play a Gold Glove type of center field, and when he's hitting the ball well, and he sprays it around all fields. So there's still some value there, but you got to get more of it.
Laziness and loafing, I've seen enough of it. I'd like to maybe put Frazier in the rest of the year and see what he can do.
Well, I don't think Frazier makes me worried about being an outfielder, but I understand what you're saying. There are guys on this team who should not be labeled as untouchables. Marte once was. He still has really over-the-top skill. I like it, but he's got to do better consistently. Also, base running issues that we've seen from time to time, just taking things off. He and Polanco both in terms of mentally involvement in the game. That all has to get better. All right, well, we can go Tim in the South Park area. Hey, Tim, how are you?
Hey, Bob. You mentioned earlier about changes in the offseason with the Pirates. Mm-hmm. I got to say, I think the Clint Hurdle era has passed. I think it's stale right now. I think the coaches, obviously included Hurdle, need to be moved on. Mike Matheny, I would love to see him manage the Pirates. I think he has the fire. I think he could produce with the Pirates. Just your thoughts on that.
Well, I like Mike Matheny, and quite frankly, I thought he got a raw deal in St. Louis. They weren't out of anything at the time, but, St. Louis is a team that wants to win, and they're not going to settle for what they were seeing at the time. But I don't think it was Mike Matheny's fault. I think it was injuries. They had a lot of them to their pitchers, to their hitters. But they've responded nicely, and they made a change because they wanted to jolt this team. It has too much talent, in their opinion, to be where they are. Now they're challenging once again the Cubs for the division. We'll see how it goes. They have head-to-head meetings left. I think you're right. I was surprised last year, quite frankly, and thank you very much for the call, Tom. We really appreciate it. That they gave Hurdle and Huntington both 4 years. Given the recent 2 years that they were dealing with, I thought a 1-year extension would have been fine. 4 years, that seems too comfortable for me. I have respect for both those guys. I think they know baseball very well. I just think you're right. Maybe it is just the message not getting delivered. Maybe sometimes that requires a change. We see it a lot in sports. Some organizations wait longer than others. Others snappy make those decisions. You got to get results. It's a results-oriented business, and if you don't, there are going to be questions about everyone. But to me, it always starts with ownership. It's got to be more committed to give them the wherewithal to go out and get what they need from a player personnel perspective. Line 5, it's Dallas in Oakland. Hey, Dallas, how are you?
Hey, Bob. I was reading an article earlier today about the Baltimore Orioles and Chris Davis, the huge deal they gave him, and how that's paid out this season.
Yeah.
That really did backfire, and everyone wants to extend some of these Pirates players to big deals. Well, think about what happened in Baltimore. Believe me, that is not exactly a good idea.
Well, it depends who you're talking about.
But money, yes.
I think the days of 8-year contracts to play, especially pitchers, I wouldn't do that ever. I never did like that. I don't mind 3-year extensions if you're dealing with a player who still you believe has. To me, you shouldn't be paying for past results, and a lot of these contracts are based on that. You want to pick a guy who's younger and you believe, like Garrett Cole, which is why I did not like that trade, because Garrett Cole, to me, was capable of doing what he's doing right now. And he's only 27 years old, going to be 28. I think that pitcher has a lot of good in front of him. And for a trade of Garrett Cole, I wanted more than what they got. I like Joe Musgrove, don't get me wrong. I think he's been good, 3.30 ERA. Colin Moran is just average. Feliz stinks so far. And they have a kid in the minors who we may never hear from. You needed more in return for Garrett Cole. That's what I'm talking about. If I'm going to give a long-term, and they were afraid to do it. They didn't want to do it.
Yep, and I mean, honestly, Houston's doing great so far. I mean, I love all baseball. I don't just like one team, and I really am following how baseball's going this year.
Right. You look at this.
You need to speed the game up a little bit, but you know what? It's fun to watch, so I think it's okay.
Well, the playoffs will be fascinating. You look at Houston again. Charlie Morton is 13-3. Garrett Cole has #1 numbers on just about every pitching category there is. You have Verlander, who is Verlander, and you have, Dallas Keuchel. You have so much talent down there. They should do well, and they are doing well. Oakland's a team that's really interesting to me, how they've been able to do it with a lot of guys you wouldn't expect to come up with big seasons, and they're doing that. Clint Altoona joins us right now on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Hey, Clint.
Hey, how you doing, Bob? Good show.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was right on the money. You're right on about the Pirates with their offense. I think the consensus is everybody likes their rotation, how it is, even going into the next couple years. Maybe other than Nova. I don't know if he's on the way out or not. But, the offense and everything, I might be wrong, but has any Pirate so far this year hit 20 home runs?
Polanco's the only one. He just got to 20. I almost had 21 last night, yes.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay, I wasn't sure. He was a close one. But, I mean, they have no legitimate, cleanup hitter. I mean, Josh Bell, he had 30-plus last year. I don't know what happened to him this year.
Sophomore.
And I don't know if anybody on the free agent market. I mean, and then Marte, the caller a couple of calls ago, you'll have to get, you can't just trade him away for nothing. But his inconsistencies and stuff, that's why the really good teams out there, Red Sox, Astros you talked about, their stars play consistently pretty good all year. And they can't have that with Marte and some of these guys. And I don't know what the problem is. And you can go delve into deep subject. If it's the coaching, I don't know or anything. But do you see anything on the rise like next year in free agency? Who may be available?
Well, I mean, this is the way I look at free agency. There are a lot of guys on it. There are a lot of guys who are going to get big money, and then there's going to be a big drop off, like we saw this past season in the off season. There was kind of a a depressed market for free agents. There were bargains out there to be had, and I think the Pirates may find themselves in the same boat this year. After the Bryce Harpers of the world get their big contracts and others, there are going to be some guys of value who don't cost as much. It's like a bargain basement sale in Major League Baseball. I'd go after them. I'd spend money. I'd increase payroll. I also think the fan base will demand that to happen. If you're the Pirates and you're going to cite, well, we're $300,000 in a down or 300,000 people down in attendance, therefore we have to lower payroll. No, you don't. if anything, you got to go the other way and show people you're willing to do what it has to do to compete.
Do the Phillies and/or the A's, is their payroll higher or lower than the Pirates?
I'd have to check. I think the A's is probably similar, if not lower, I'm guessing. I got to check that. I don't know the answer for you.
Okay, thanks.
We'll have Jared Barton, who's our esteemed producer, look that up for me, okay? Thanks. I appreciate the call. 412-575-2600. Let's go out to Tom in Beaver Falls. Hey, Tom, how you doing?
Hey, Bob. How's it going?
What's up?
All right. I got a question. Unless I missed something, what happened to Jung Ho Kang?
He had surgeries done for the year.
Oh, I knew he had surgery, but it was season-ending surgery.
He's another guy who really compromised their efforts. You know,
really
last year was Marte with that
80
80-game PED suspension, and then Kang does what he does. Those two guys really, you know, helped implode that season for the Pittsburgh Pirates last year specifically.
Yeah, you're right about that. Okay,
that's
all I had to say, Bob. Thanks for taking my call.
Anytime. Thank you for the call. Appreciate it. When we come back, we're going to take a break, and we are going to reveal 2 hole-in-ones today, our Ruth's Chris Sizzling Shots, plural, when we come back right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, Pittsburgh CW.